Buddy, hope everybody's doing good. I'm doing real good myself. I'm going to post the link and then I'm going to the top. There we go. All right. It's good to see Keith, Mike, Bundy, Kimberly. I think that's everybody so far that's posted. There's 12 watching, so there's more in the background. Hope everybody's doing good. The weather, man, I can't complain we haven't had a spring this year. We usually go right from winter to summer, but not this year. It's been today it's been cloudy. I think the high was 65. Um, kind of a misty, maybe to a light rain most of today, but 15 minutes misting, next 15 minutes not. It's like been a real hassle. And like I said, 65. Our average right now is 79. So we're not even getting close to our average. Hey, Jack and Danette. Hope everything's good. I hope everything's good for everybody, especially in the beekeeping world. Yeah, today's topic, I'm not, hopefully you guys can post some too, but little helpful tricks that a lot of people don't talk about in beekeeping. I got a few, but not a whole lot. And then maybe just talk about in general about what's going on. I got some notes. And I want to talk a little bit about grafting too, or cutting cells and not having to graft, depending how big an operation you guys run and stuff like that. Hey, Dodd, how's you doing? Hey, Darren, hope everything's good, both of you. So one thing I do, this is a little late for the people down south. Instead of cutting entrances in your boxes or holes to keep them cool, I just take a penny nail and underneath my top super box, I just crack it and put a penny nail underneath it. And if I want a little bit more, I do it on both sides. And that just gives a little, ventilation for them. If I want to, especially when we get into the dry season, I'll just off center the deep by an eighth of an inch. Not quite enough that the bees can't get out, but enough that air can get in. I learned that one from Gus Mitchell. It works pretty good. And if it rains, it really doesn't bother them, as long as it's hot summertime. Hey, Sarah. Yeah, you had a good little live this afternoon. So that's one little trick I do. I don't. That way, I don't put any holes in my any of my boxes. Um, I do run double bubble wrap for my inner cover or a half-inch insulation, so I don't have that little entrance on the wood inner covers. Hey, Todd, um, for ventilation. I really don't like running top uh, entrances on my hives. I just run um, bottom bottom entrances only. Hey, J and D. Yeah, Jack and Jeanette. I said that already. Hey, Lee. Oh, Lee's here. Maybe I have to promote him a little bit. Hope everything's good. Oh, beef jerky. That sounds like a good idea. I got some leftover venison. Maybe I'll need to make some beef jerky soon. So now I got my Kodiak Farm hat on. Hey, Jen and Brian. Brian. Um, yeah, like I said, and actually one other little trip. I run all solid bottom boards now. I think about 5 years ago, I got rid of my screen bottom boards. It just gets really cold here in Cincinnati. I think this year we had minus 14 in one week where it never got above freezing. So It's kind of good to keep the air out. And I also don't vent my tops. Like I said, I insulate my top of my hives. I keep R half inch R 3.2 on the top and R 9.2 during the wintertime, not counting the lid and stuff like that. So probably like R4 and R10 between summer and winter. Hey Randy, hope everything's good. Hey Tim and Hannah, it was nice you're live on Sunday. Real good. Hey Dennis, another little trick is I only run my entrances 2 inches wide uh, on my bottom board, and I only run either quarter inch to 3/8 height. So when I keep my hives narrow like that at a quarter inch to 3/8 inch, I never have to worry about mice. I've never had a mice in my hive because mice can't get in um, quarter inch to 3/8. I think that's like 6 millimeters, something like that. 6 to 7. Then I only run them 2 inches wide, and I still pull 100 pounds of honey every year. So all this bull, all this crap that you hear about, you got to have your hives wide open. Um, I don't think I'd get any more honey at all. I mean, if anything, maybe a little bit of robbing, and I'd get a little bit less from other hives. That's another subject. All my hives, well, not all of them, my little 12 framers, I don't, but all my 10 frames hives, every bee or every critter that goes into that hive has to go in 3/4 inch of the thickness of the wood plus another inch where I have my little two entrance cover piece I have in there. So almost 2 inches they have to walk into the hive. Well, I found out over the years that any other bee from another hive that goes into that hive, any small hive beetles, any yellow jackets, any wax moths, anything that goes into that hive thinks the entrance is on the outs, on the in the middle towards the outside of the hive. So when they try to leave, they run into the inside center corner of my entrance, and they can't figure out that they got to back up a little bit to get through the real entrance. Even my own bees from one hive to the next hive don't realize that when they go into the hive for robbing. So I don't even have any robbing issues with any of my hives. So I don't get any mice issues. I don't get any robbing issues. I don't get any yellow jack issues. All per my bottom board design. So, just little things I don't have to worry about, little things I don't have to do and spend any money on or anything like that. Queen bee, you still doing any grafting? No, not right now, but in about 3 weeks, I'll be grafting again. I always do a summer solstice graft, and I'll make 12 to 18 splits, probably close to 18 splits this year. After I pull the honey on the 4th, I shouldn't say the 4th of July, first week of July. So I'll graft somewhere around 17 days before that. I think I'm going to pull the honey. So usually right around the summer solstice, maybe a few days before, and the queens will be emerging right at the first of July. And I'll definitely do that and pull some of the hives so I can make splits. Also, those hives are really, really big, and I'm basically pushing them down into a single box until I get the second deep, which is my honey deep, um, extract it, and then I push them down into a double deep. And they've been in all my hives right now have at least 5 boxes on it, and half of them got 6 boxes on it. Um, Queen Bee asked, "What is my cutoff date for grafting?" I don't like to graft any later than end of August, maybe the middle to the third week of August. I want those queens coming out before September 1st. Um, in my area, that's the Ohio Valley. Early September still can be pretty many drones. It's not a problem. By the time you get down to the end of September, the drone numbers are significantly lower. So um, that would be the end. I mean, basically, I try to get all my grafting done by the end of July, 1st of August. But I have graphed all the way as late as maybe the 20th of August. And I've just done like 5 or 6 grafts. I wouldn't do a full graft either at that time. I'd probably only graft up to 10 cells, maybe 15 at most if I needed that many. So what I do is I have 12 framers, 6 over 6. I have 6 5 frames in the horizontal hive, and those will all get brand new queens, summer solstice queens. And then I have 3 hives. I think it's 3 hives. Yeah. Well, I have 2 hives that I know are 2 flow hives. They're last year queens, and I'll be replacing those for sure. Also, those are my honey production hives right now, and then so that's I mean that's 6, that's 18, at least 20 queens I hope to get. So I'll graft about 25 cells, hoping to get about 20 queen. Actually, I'll graft about 30 cells, and I'll put out 28 mating nukes. I'll do those 20 I talked about, and then I'll do a bunch. I got a couple 4 frame box. I got a 6 frame box. I've got a bunch of the um, Chester Easy nukes, and I'll make. Um, if I need 20 queens, I'll do 30 nukes. I'll do 30. Try to get 30 queens mated, because my success rate during that time of year is probably around 60. I say 50 to 70%. It varies from year to year. Um, I don't see as many predator birds, and I haven't seen any, well, dragonflies yet, but we haven't had any summer yet. And last few years, the dragonflies have been not as big as issue in the past. So I have to do like 30% more mating queens than I really need, just because of mating success. He also asked, "What did I do with queens that I made it after July?" I mean, any queen. I prefer all my queens to be basically mated in July, early August. That's when there's the most drones. Um, those queens will overwinter, I believe, better than any other queens, because they're young, they're strong, their energy, they're not worn out from laying. They're just do a little bit of laying in the fall time, mostly for the winter bees. And actually, I think they make even a little bit more winter bees because they haven't been laying. And then when spring comes, they shoot off like rockets and laying, because they're just waiting for their chance. So if I have any extra queens in the fall time, in August, I will sell them. But I don't. In the past years, I haven't deliberately made a whole bunch of extra queens to sell um, in the fall, and that's because I was working. So there's a good chance. Hey, Russell, there's a good chance. Maybe I'll do a full 45 cells. Maybe do them back to back. Do 90 cells and make. I mean, I'll have 30 hives to make split from. maybe even 33 hives, 32, somewhere between 30 and 33 hives to split from. So I could easily make, um, I don't know, a bunch of splits and then sell some of those brand new mated queens in the fall. There's always a huge demand in the fall time for mated queens. It's amazing how many people lose their queens during the summertime. I think a lot of people kill their queens. Hey Ben and collector Rick, Dennis. Make sure I didn't miss anybody while I was talking. I got Todd. Yeah, okay. So, oh, Pennsylvania. Oh shoot, what's your name? Kurt. Shoot, I should know that. Let me see if I got it written down in my notes. I gotta get my notes organized. Oops, I just dropped my cheat sheet note. No, talk about. So yeah, so I might do more queens this year just so I can help all the beekeepers out in the fall time. I'll probably only charge like $20 a queen just because I'm not here to make a ton of money. Just to help, I'm rather help people out, stuff like that, versus trying to make maximum profit. I do think this year I'm going to have my record honey pool. I think I'm going to push close to 2,000 pounds this year. I'll find out later on this week or this weekend when I'm going to start pulling a couple hives and see how full they are. But I think it's going to be pretty good. So yeah, that got you got me thinking now about how many queens I want to do here in 3 weeks, basically, or a little less. Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks. That's another thing I want to talk about. So many people concerned about the bill doing a bill cell builder, and it's really that easy. If you got a pretty big hive, especially this time of year, after well, during the honey flow or after you pull honey, um, you can take that hive, shake, pull the honey off. You might want to pull, like I said, I'll pull one early. The queen I want to graft from, which I already think I know which one that is. It's gonna be one of my VHS queens. Um, I'll pull that honey off. Actually, I'm gonna be pulling some honey off this week. Like I said, probably Saturday, and I'll pull two of the three. It's got 3 boxes, 4 boxes on it. I'll pull 3 of the boxes off and leave the two double deeps on it. I'll put another empty box on it for them to make comb. Um, but I'll take that when it's time for me to graft, I'll take that honey box off and put it on another hive. Um, then I'll take the queen out of that hive and any open brood she has. So that's 2 frame. Typically, it's 2 to 3 frames of open brood. I'll take those out. I'll put her into either a 10 frame or one of my usually I put them into one of my 10 frames and I'll give them a frame of uh, pollen. Usually in those hives there's 2 frames of pollen, so I'll steal one. There might even be three. I'll steal one and a frame of brood and a frame of food, not brood. So you got 2 to 3 frames of open brood. And I'll put her in a separate box. Then I'll take that double deep that's packed with bees still, since I only took really 2 frames of bees, because I'll shake the bees off the pollen and the pollen and the honey frame, and leave the rest of those two full boxes of bees. Plus, I took the honey off, so it's really more than that. And I'll shake them. I'll put all the brood down in the bottom box, and I'll shake all those bees down into that box, and then I'll put the lid on and I'll put that up. If there's any extra brood, I'll just give them. I'll make a split or something like that, or put in another hive after I shake all the bees off. But usually there's 6. If I take 2 or 3, there's about another 6 left, and I put those down in the bottom box. And I'll put the brood in the middle, and I put the pollen on the outside. And then 6 days later, I'll come back. I'll shake the bees off all the brood frames. Not really all of them. You can tell what a brood frame is old or if it's a newly capped brood frame. Um, the I would say the newer cap will be more of a beige, light brown, a brownish beige color, and then the stuff that's ready to hatch out or merge out is usually more like an almond color. They're a lot darker from all the bees walking over the top of them. So those frames, I know if they only, I don't need to check them, but the ones that might have had some open brood in them, and the very end corners, I'll check them for cells. And since that's the queen I want to graft from, if there's any cells in there, I'll cut them out because I know they're good cells and put them in my incubator. Then, like I said, 6 days later or 7 days later, I'll go back, cut those all out, and then I'll take the one frame will be already emerged out. I'll take that frame out, and right in the center of the last four, there's probably like four frames of brood left. There'll be two frames emerged out already after 1 week, and then I'll put an empty plastic foundation frame right in the center, and then I'll go ahead and graft. I'll go to the queen that I moved to the other hive, and I forgot to tell you, I'll have a small pollen patty in there, and I'll have uh, point 0.7 or 1 to 1, basically a little bit lighter than 1 to 1 um, sugar water on that when I did that at 6 days, 7 days beforehand. So they got a lot of royal jelly, and then let me step back again. So after 6 day, during that 6 day, 4 days before I'm going to graft. So if I wait 6 days, it'll be just 2 days after I did everything, shut them down into two frames and got them down into one box. I'll put a perfectly good comb frame right in the middle of those two brood frames or three brood frames of the queen that I moved over. And she'll lay, and that day, an hour later, clean that frame up, and she'll lay that frame. So on the 6th day or to the 7th day, the day I graft, I only got to pull out that frame that I just put in there 4 days ahead of time, and it will be full of eggs and 1 day larvae. So when I go to graft, I know every one of those cells, every one of those larvae are four one less than 1 day old as a larvae. Most of them are less than 12 hours old, 12 to 18 hours old. So that makes it really easy to graft from because I don't even have to go looking around. In fact, it'll be pretty easy. They'll be right in the center of the frame, and all the eggs will be on the outside of the frame because the queen will start in the middle of the frame or lower middle center of the frame and work her way out. So all the ones in the middle to just a couple rings around will be the first best ones to graft from. So that's a little trick too that you can do. Put a frame in one of your darker but good frames with a plastic foundation right in the center of her brood that she can lay on. And there'll be plenty of royal jelly since there was already a food frame in there, a pollen. Plus, I was feeding them 1 to 1. Plus, I had a honey frame. So then I'll take that frame in and I'll graft. Then go to her original hive that has the two frames of bees, three boxes of bees in one box, and they'll make cells like you won't believe. They'll be wanting to make cells because they think they got a swarm, but they don't have a queen, and they're ready to rock. So, so the day I start, I'll shake all the bees down I'll take all the brood down except for the open brood, move the queen with the open brood with food, pollen, and honey. I'll feed that small split with the queen with a little bit of pollen patty and 1 to 1 sugar, 0.7 to 1 sugar water. Then 2 days after that, I'll go in there and put a perfectly good best grafting frame right in the center of that queen, um, 2 or 3 open brood frames. And then on the 6th or 7th day, I'll graft from that same queen. So I just used one hive and I let them finish I'll wait till the 9th day. I'll pull that frame out. But at the same time as I pull that frame out, I'll have another grafting frame that I had just grafted to put in right behind it. As soon as I pull it out, I'll put the new frame right in, um, to do a few extra queens. Whenever you do this, let them build it. You can do at least 2 full frames of cells into one cell builder. So it's 9 days later, or we could, 10 days later, I'll pull those cells, I'll graft again from the same queen. Once again, 4 days ahead of time, I'll give her a perfect frame. I'll take that frame out, graft again from that frame, and then put it right back in, take that cap cells out and put another frame in. I've done finishers, but I don't graft enough. I mean, 2 times per grafting cycle is all I do. 2 in the spring, 2 in the summer. So that's all I need. So I only need one box to do everything in. And it's really nice having the queen that you want to graft from with is only in 4 frames, and she's on the perfect frame that you just gave her 4 days ago, or she just finished that frame. It takes her about a day to lay up. I mean, 4 days to lay up a frame. So that's how I do it. I don't worry about. I mean, the only thing I do is after 6 days I check for queen cells, but 9 out of 10 times since I pulled the open brood out, there aren't any queen cells in my cell builder after the 6 days. If there'll only be a couple. Won't be many because you didn't give them any options or any options. So that's a little bit about um, grafting. This is what I use. I use these little curling cells, and I just used easy beezy cups. Put with the cell. I just put them right on top. And I put a little tape over or a little bit of wax to hold it down because the queen will push these empty caps off. If I cut cells out, I still use the same thing. I have one actually right here in my hand that came out of earlier this year, a couple weeks ago. And I'll just take the little bit of the wax and just push the little tail right on the end right there. Put a little piece of tape over the end part here, put it in my incubator. So I multi-purpose use them. You can buy some from a guy that makes something that has these easy beasy cups, but these things work great. Um, and if you notice, this is a pretty good cell. And what I just explained they make really good um, queen cells for you. So that's an easy way to do grafting. If you're a smaller beekeeper and you don't need to, you can just take a hive that you like, the queen that you like, let them go into swarm mode, and whatever your time is, when you think they're going to be swarming, just make sure a week ahead of time you check them. And once you see if you check them like every 2 to 3 days, then you'll see when they get capped. You can wait a couple days longer and you can cut those caps out. And like I said, put them in your little thing and put them in your incubator. And if they're capped, then approximately um, that'd be day 8, day 9. So approximately 6, 7 days later, 7 or 8 days later, they should be emerging out. So you can do grafting that way, just using swarm cells to cut out. That's what this one was. It was a cutout from the swarm cell. Hive number 1, when I grafted from, swarmed on me. I knew she was going to. She was a year and a half. She was the second flow queen, and I was watching her. I actually twice took brood out of that box. to slow her down, but she still wanted to swarm. She swarmed anyway. Hey, Nancy, us grown kids. I'm always a kid in heart. At least that's what I try to be. Hope everything's going good. Did anybody sneak in here I didn't see? DC, yeah, say hi, DC, I think. Pete, I didn't say hi, Pete. Jen, buzzing with blessings. Yeah, amen on that. Yes, I think I got anybody. Bundy, yeah, Queen Bee, Barry. I didn't say hi to you, so hi, hello. I think that's it. Let me see if I've got any more tricks. I talked about inches, insulation, penny nails, grafting a little bit. Hey, Barnhill bees. Anybody else have any little tricks that are like easy and makes your life easier? I know Nancy and I practice. She's even better than I am. Is I don't have what I put out in the hives stay out in the hives except for my supers. So I don't. The only thing I bring into my storage are my honey boxes and my 1 inch high density boards, insulation boards that I put on top my underneath my 1/2 inch for the winter time. So that's about besides the suit, the hive tools. That's all I bring in for storage. Buckets, I bucket feed through the top, so I don't have to open my hives up for feeding. Only on my horizontal hives, I have to open them up, and I use frame feeders for those. Actually, one of them I got a tall lid, and I use buckets on them too underneath the lid. But the other one, I have one that I use frame feeders. It's got yeah 3 hives in it. I might convert it to 4 hives next year. 24 frame hives versus 33 frame hives. Um, One other thing. Oh, I just thought of it. Oh, now I lost it. I was thinking about another little trick and I forgot about. Oh, hive tools. On this picture, you can't see it, but I have a little brown. It actually was a swimming pool to put floats and that stuff in from my mom's swimming pool. I have on my barn door. You can't see it right now with the picture I got up there. Put it right in the back corner of it. And inside of that, I keep my veil, I keep my hive tool, I keep queen clips in case I need to catch a queen on board, little things like that. And they stay there. Each one of my horizontal hives have a hive tool in it. My out yard, I have a spot, a little shoebox, steel box that I keep my hive tool in. And actually, I have an old smoker I have there. I always keep it there. So if I forget it to bring anything, I have it there already. Um, so it kind of works out. Over the years, I've collected a couple of smokers. So, hey, Pastor Larry, Miss Jane, if she's there, anybody else, I leave it there so that way I don't forget it, and at least the basic stuff's there. I have a really old suit that I keep at my other place too, just in case. Actually, I keep it in my truck, so it's always in my truck. I think I got more duct tape than material holding the suit together. Uh, yeah, in the golf cart. If I had a golf cart, it would be the same way, Nancy. I'd keep it in the golf cart. I know I saw somebody else was using my new tote design, and they're the blue totes, and they were catching swarms in it. So I tell you that those cheap little dollar store, big lots, blue totes, 19-gallon, make really good swarm traps. So yeah, So that's about most of my little tricks I know. And like I said, I use 1 gallon and 2 gallon bucket feeds. And mostly I do 2 gallons now. Um, when the 1 gallon ones deteriorate, the plastic do deteriorate after about 5 years. The lids do. They crack, mostly the lids. We either replace the lid or replace the whole bucket with a 2 gallon bucket. Um, I do feed in the fall time, at least I have in the past. This year, I might leave them a little bit more honey than I ever have in the past. I really don't know yet. Okay. Yeah, blue tote, find my channel. Yep. It works really, really well having a blue tote and dark blue. I have a couple dark blue ones too that work really, really good. So they're like 59, 58 to 60 liters. That one person in the book that said 40 liters didn't know what he was talking about. Maybe tree swarms works for 40, but beekeeper swarms you need 60 liters, at least 55, 60 liter boxes. Then you catch those big swarms, and those big swarms will make you 50 to 100 pounds of honey each year. Especially if those are usually the early swarms too, the big swarms. First few weeks of the 2 weeks of the season, you catch those 10, 20, those 15, 10 to 20 frame swarms with those 60, 59, 60 liter boxes. Totes. I think the 40 liters catches cast swarms. I did catch a couple cast swarms this year in them, so it works good for those too. So that's another little trick. Don't go with the 40, go with the 40 liters, go with 60 liters or 55 to 60 liters. Bees will not turn it down, I'll tell you that. That you can't have it too big. They go in house walls that are a lot bigger than that. Lot bigger all the time. Also, don't I don't have any hives, any swarm traps in trees. Every one of my swarm traps is by a structure. And I actually have one on the ground that actually caught a nice swarm this year sitting on the ground. I didn't have anything good place to set it on, so I just sat it on the ground and worked good. Entrance, like I said, was literally 3/4 of an inch off the ground, just the bottom board, and caught a swarm there. So forget forget the trees, find buildings, find structures. Really, sheds and barns work really well. And I always put my traps in the shade, preferably on the north side of the structure. I got one on a grain silo on the north side. It caught a swarm. I actually got a tie wrap to the steps that go up to it, up to the top of it on the outside. Worked perfect. It's only like 4 feet off the ground. Caught a swarm there. I got another box there now trying to catch a second one. It's a new place. That way they're always in the shade. The bees like to be in the shade on their swarm traps. Yeah, swarming season ends the end of May here. It starts April, usually around the first week. This year it was just third week of April, usually the first or second week. Usually the first week I get my first call, right around the third to the fifth, so the end of the week. Last year it was 2 years ago, it was the last week in March. So I should say end of March to the first 2 weeks of April, first swarm start. Really peaks around the third week of April, the first week of May, and then by the end of May, um, spring, good swarm season's over. This year, spring has been at least 2 weeks late. Actually, I got a friend, actually, a student of my wife's told her yesterday, told her that Western Hills um, golf course had a swarm, and I went there this morning. But another, I I told him I had a funeral to go to this morning, and he took care of it. I got there, he was just leaving, a friend of mine, so he took care of him. He really didn't want to swarm because he doesn't need any more bees, but he took care of it since it was at a country club, Western Hills Country Club. So, yeah, I had three funerals to go to this week. Well, two of them I went to. One of them my wife went to. One of her school friends. DC, let me see who posted question. So that deep single I set up for the swarm trap only has a half a frame in it. How long should I let it sit before looking in on it? I check my swarm traps once a week. Um, Typically on Tuesday mornings, since I'm retired now, I make a round trip and check all my traps. I think I got only half of them up now. I haven't re-put them back up, the ones I cut swarms in. Um, and I'll leave them up for about 2 more weeks. Maybe since our season ends at the end of the month, which is now, I'd say if I don't hear any more calls, I'll pick them up. I'll take them out in about 2 more weeks. You can leave them up, but you might get wax moths in them later on in the year. This in the springtime, I don't have that issue with critters getting it. Wax wasps is about the only thing that get into my swarm traps. And actually, in a couple of them, I have little um, metal strips going across the entrance that the bees can get through, but wasps can't get through. Their wings are too big, too wide on some of them. I only did that on a few of them. Um, I fill all my traps up with frames. Most of them hold 8, 9 frames, maybe 10, 9 frames. I caught them with full 9 wax plastic foundation with no comb in them. I've caught them with all comb in them. I've caught them with any combination of comb in them, so of frames in them. The key is leaving 4 to 7 inches, 4 to 8 inches below your frames. Bees think they can grow, make their hives bigger and build down. Since bees love to build down, having that empty space underneath your frames is key. And my 19-gallon totes works perfect because it's like 6 inches, a little bit less than 6 inches. So if for some reason the swarm is in there and I can't get them for a couple weeks, um, I can cut right across the bottom of the plastic tote what they have built, and it will fit perfectly in a frame. And then I rubber band it and put it right in their hive, and works really well. And it's typically the same exact size of a frame, so I might have to trim the sides off a little bit. That's about it. So it's kind of a win-win in that aspect because the totes big is big enough, and then any extra comb that they build at the bottom will fit on a frame, with non-foundation in it, with some rubber bands. So that's a good little trick too. Um, but I don't wait. As soon as I have most of my about half, more than half, are at people's houses. One's at my brother's farm. He'll text me if I catch a swarm. Two other friends are at houses. They will call me or text me if I catch a swarm. And I've been doing this enough years with them that they know what a swarm is. And as soon as they tell me I'm there the next day, that day or the next day, and I get them, I do not wait for pollen. I All those swarms are more than 3 miles away from my house, so I don't have to worry about them leaving the box. because if they don't know where they're at, they won't leave. If they do leave, I don't want to swarm anyway because there's something wrong. Because a good swarm won't leave a box if you drive more than all my boxes are at least 5 miles away from my house, so I don't have to worry about them leaving the box. They won't leave them. They won't leave whatever I put them in. I typically will not leave them in the swarm trap either very long. I typically go either very early in the morning or mostly I go at last light to pick up my swarm traps, unless it's raining. If it's a raining day that day or the next day, it's usually the next day then, I'll pick them up while it's raining because then I don't have to worry about foragers being out. That's the best deal, is picking them up when they're raining because all the foragers are in and I'm not driving at nighttime or, have to leave the house, you know, at 8:30, 9 o'clock and get home. Like my brother's farm's an hour drive, so I wouldn't be getting out there till almost 9 o'clock and then not getting home till after 10. So last two swarms I got out there, it rained the next day. So I went out there that day and took them out just right in the middle of the day. So it worked out really good. So that's been a little trick. Get them early in the first light or last light or when it's raining, your traps. And I check them once a week. I only bait them. I'll put them out the last week of March and maybe at the end of April, I'll freshen them up and that's it. Um, one time to two times a year. I see people all the time with their swarms saying they left the box or they won't go in the box. Well, there's only usually only one reason why they won't go in a box. That's because there's too much attractant in them. It smells too much like lemongrass, or it's swarm commander or swarm wrestler. So I'm really sparingly, very little use a little bit of it, and I never spray the entrance of the swarm trap. I do a little Q-tip. I spray the Q-tip once or twice. I put it in a Ziploc bag that I don't zip. Put that across the top of the frames in the back of the trap. And then on those plastic totes, there's a little lip for the handle. I'll spray up in that handle. And that way, if it rains, it doesn't get washed out. And that's about it. And I'll go in there one more time and spray up in that handle. I won't do the Q-tip again, and that's it. I don't do any of that, all that other stuff, putting a whole lot of attractant in them. A couple of them this year, I didn't do anything to them, and they still got swarms. The key is having 55, 60 liters and a space underneath the hives. So if you got hives, I would do a 10 frame or an 8 frame. Then I'd put another medium 8 frame or 10 frame underneath it. There's my swarm trap with no frames in the medium super. That's what got me into building my totes that big because I was catching a lot of swarms in that setup. And then those boxes get pretty heavy, especially when you got a bottom board and you got a lid and you got two boxes, one full of frames. And I said one day I had a dark blue tote in my barn. And I said, man, this would make a good swarm trap. It's about the same size, and made my dowel pins go across that hold the frames and worked perfect. Holds 9 frames, 9.5 frames, and they got 6 inches underneath the frames. It's perfect. Nice and light, really good. I put most of the lids indented in the top, about holds maybe half inch of water. I'll bring a couple boards, wood pieces, scrap pieces I got laying around, throw it on top of my lid, and they'll soak up that water, and it's actually a water source for the bees. So besides the bees are flying there first for a water source, and then they find out that it's a good swarm trap for them, perfect home for them. So it's like a win-win. So that might be another reason why I'm so successful, that my lid becomes a water source for the bees. This year that wasn't so important since it's been raining and raining and raining and raining, or cloudy and raining like today. So, hey, James and Roy and the other James. So there's some little tricks and little ways to make catch swarms easier. Um, Vent your hives a little bit easier without cutting holes in your hives. I've talked about my bottom boards, how I do my bottom boards totally different than everybody else. I call them Langstroth 2.0 bottom boards. And I got that fancy entrance. I'm going to buy a 3D printer and start making those and sell them, I think, on my website once I get my website up and running. Did I miss anything? Yeah, I'm done with buying bees. Maybe a queen here and there with special, you know, mite traits. This is my first year. I'm going 100% now, zero treating. So I was just doing three auxilic acid in my little treat thing, but I'll do my little humidity temperature treat treat, but I won't hit them with oxalic acid at the end. That'll just give me a little. Actually, it won't do anything. I probably won't even do that. Maybe I'll do that just to use them up because I have them. I did just talk about how I weed queen in the late summer, but I'll go over that again, Brian. Guess you missed it. So I pull my honey right around the first week of July. Um, some of it I'll pull in the middle of July because I really like getting clover um, honey in my honey production and my honey for the taste. Um, so somewhere around the second to third week of June, right around the summer solstice. Last year I grafted on my birthday, which is the 22nd of June. I might do that again this year. Maybe that'll be a new tradition I start. I graft on my birthday. It's about the right day to do it, somewhere between the 17th and the 20. Actually, the 17th and the 22nd. I don't want to graft much later than that. Um, if I think I'm going, I used to always graft pull honey on the 4th of July because I worked for a living and that was the day off. So I could pull honey or that weekend, 4th of July weekend. Now, since I'm retired, I can pull honey a couple days earlier. So I earlier I can do the queen, graft for the queen, the better. Um, as long as it still grafts, as long as she still emerges after the honey flow. So I want to bring that up. Our last big flow, our flow ends about the summer solstice to the last week of June. And that's when the basswood linden trees bloom. Um, that's a big flow for me because I have, luckily, a half mile from me, I have a forest of basswood trees. It's not a forest, but there's at least I've counted at least 40, and that's only on the edges of the woods. I hadn't even got in the woods, and it's about 100 acres of woods. And I think there's 80 to 100 basswood trees on there. In fact, I saw a couple other ones on the golf course when I played golf the other day. There on Monday mornings. So I'll graft 17 days before I think I'm going to start pulling the first few um, honey boxes. But I'm already going to pull some this week. So I'm probably going to graft around probably the 14th, middle June to the summer solstice. But the queens will be emerging out somewhere at the end of June. End of flow. That's the key. End of flow. Um, then I'll do my grafting so she emerges out right around that same time. I'll go ahead and pull my honey, at least on some of my boxes, so I can make splits because I know the queen's going to be emerging out that day or the next day. I'll do the splits probably the day before. Actually, I'll do some 6 days ahead of time to make sure I kill all the queen cells so the queen will stay hopeless on that. But I might only pull just cat brood, then I don't have to worry about that too much. Um, and then I'll put those queens in. I'll walk those queens in to be mated. And since they don't fly 4 to 6 days after they emerge from their cells, um, that'll put me into the first or second week of July before she gets mated. And that'll be definitely after the main flow. We still have clover going on. There's still a few little flowers, but no more trees, no more main flow. Luckily, in Ohio Valley, we always have a flow until the dog days of summer, like the middle of the clover ends usually about the middle of August. So the middle of August to September, to middle of September, we won't have hardly any flow. But then the esters, goldenrod, the early goldenrod will start blooming, and at least we'll get some flow, and we'll get some pollen coming in. So I don't have really a dearth. We might have anywhere from 2 to 6, 4 weeks of dearth, but that's about it. And it's not even a true dearth. It's just there's food around. It's just not enough for them to store any. So the queen will lay some in those during that time, and will lay the uh, the winter bees. Then in the end of April, I usually try to graft the end of March to the 1st of April. I will sell on all my hives. I will sell that queen that I overwintered in, the old queen, my honey queen, that's now a year old. Well, actually, it's not even a year old yet because I do this every year. Um, but she's gone through one flow, so she's 3/4 of a year old and one flow. I'll sell them off as nukes, and I'll put the queen that I made it back in July into my honey production hives. And boy, do those queens make a lot of brood because they haven't gone through a flow yet. The best thing about that, I don't have to worry about swarms. I had one hive swarm this year because that queen was an overwintered queen, 2 flow queen that I grafted from. So I knew she might swarm. She was really, really, really good queen to graft from. And I didn't want to pinch her. I said, I'm going to graft from her the following year as my summer graft. So any hives that I lose or any splits I want to make in the spring, I'll graft again just to replace a couple queens that maybe weren't the best queens that got made in July. So I'll do this year I did 22 frame graft, 22 cell graft frame, 22 cell graft. And that's all I needed to do. Then I probably cut out, when hive one swarmed, I cut out 6 cells, got them, they came out of cells. I had another lady that's a beekeeper. She's in her second year, and her hive swarmed on her. And so I said, man, we got to go in there and check swarm cells. She didn't want any more than her 2 hives. So I left her 2 cells and I cut out another 5 more cells. And that was one of my queens that she bought on a new previous year. So I know what genetics it is. So I got some queens that way. So I didn't need to graft a second time. But typically I'll graft 2 small ones, 220s, something like that in the spring, just to replace any hives that failed, any queens that weren't produced, that didn't look good through getting through winter. I'll do them. And like I said, there'll be brand new queens versus overwintered queens. And that's my little gig. That's what I do. So what I really like about it, I'm a big believer that I want my queens to be mated with 30 plus drones. So every one of my hives has a drone frame in them, combed drone frame. So I have lots of drones flying around off my property. I preach that when I do my classes. So I'm thinking that all my beekeepers in my neighborhood, a lot of them do the same thing. And right around the end of June to July, there's a lot of drones. And the good thing, they're all mature drones by then. You don't have to worry about it like you do in the springtime. And I get really good mated queens. My only issue is my percentage of mated queens returning back virgin queens is a lot lower just because there's a lot more predators out there. But that's the nature of the beast. Yeah. So I try to replace all my production queens, my honey hives. Um, my resource hives, I'm stealing queens from them occasionally for my production hives. This year, past winter, I lost all my resource. All the hives I lost, most of them were my resource hives, which were mostly swarms from the previous year. I didn't feed those in the fall time because my knee replacement. I concentrated on my production hives. That was probably the main reason, not because they were swarms, because I didn't feed them. And then we had a severe drought. So that was really bad timing. Severe drought and no flow at all during the fall. So we did have a dearth from August to through winter this past fall. And having a bad knee. And of course, I didn't put two and two together that was that bad. That they ate all their stores during the late summer in August. That I didn't feed them enough, so I lost all those hives. So all my all my resource hives are either new hives from the queens I just did, or there's a couple more swarms that I caught, the big swarms. Yeah, there's been studies. There's been a couple studies there. Actually, there's been three studies I have read that queens that are made by 30 or more, 30 drones are eight times better on handling varroa mites. And if they're bred by 40 drones, they're 10 times better survival rate, 10 times better on dealing with varroa mites. So if you need the key is diversity of genetics, and there will be enough worker bees with the right genetics that you don't need to treat your bees because you have the right genetics in your queens, in your worker bees. So that's where been at the last 5 years. I've been getting anywhere from 3 to 5 VHS queens from a few different um, people, not the same one. And plus, I catch those Amish swarms. So between the swarms from the Amish that don't treat and the VHS queens, I think I got some pretty good genetics in my yard. Um, so none of my production, all my production hives are my queens or the VHS queens that I bought. Five of them this year are Corey Stevens. First time I got queens from Corey Stevens. Second time I got queens from Corey Stevens. I got five of them from him. His queens. 3 years ago, I got two of them from him, and one of them was good. One of them was a dud. Wasn't a good layer. Well, I think it was a dud because I didn't get made it well at my place. I think I was a little too early. I beat the spring by a week, 2 weeks. Um, so I graphed two times. Once at the end of March, first couple weeks of April, depending on drones walking on the frames, and then middle of June. middle to the third week of June. Do those summer queens. I really am a big fan of summer queens after the flow. So people down south, that's probably a fall queen for you guys, since your flow goes all the way, or you get a second flow in the fall time. And up north, that might be a month earlier than what I just talked about. You might want to be doing it 1st of June, because your flow's ending at the middle of June or the early June. So it all depends on where you live. But the key is to have the queen emerging out the week after the flow, or the week of the last week of the flow. That would probably be more ideal, because that way, when she gets, you have less chance of robbing of your hives. And that's another thing I talked about during the spring, April splits. I can just do 2 frame splits. I don't have to worry about getting robbing, since I'm putting these in small nukes and I don't use my entrance trick and all that on those. And a lot of them are in those Jester Easy boxes. You better make them 3 frames of brood and shake in a frame of bees. So 4 frames of bees on 3 frames of a split. Because the robbing when there's no flow is significantly more likely. 2 frame splits will not work, at least in my area, for the summer queen mating. I also believe when you have 3 to 4 frames of bees, you get better queens when they go out to get mated. I think they're fed better, they're healthier, they're stronger. I just think two bees. In the springtime, I do 2 frames of bees and I shake in a frame of bees, nurse bees. So it's like 3 frames on 2 frames. But in the summertime, I do 3+1 versus 2+1. Keep swarming down. I need to make my own 4 frame mating nukes with the entrance that they have to walk in at 2 inches before they get into the box. So so I don't have to worry about having to do 2 frame splits in the fall time. But I haven't done that on those little ones. I'm a big fan of there's 6 predator mites that you can buy that will eat about any mites there are out there. But there's a pseudo scorpion mite it's not native to the United States, but it's in every state. I don't know about Alaska and Hawaii, but it's in all the continental states, 48 states. This might, it's actually they're prolific in most areas. Um, they actually eat. They've actually done studies. They eat varroa mites, and the bees actually allow them to live in their hives, because I guess they know they're eating their mites and whatever other things that might be in their hives. They commingle together. They like little wood chips, like mulch type wood chips. So I'll be lining in my grass there. I'm going to spray some weed killer on it and kill about 2, 3 inch, 3 foot path. And then I'm going to throw some wood chips in there a few weeks later, and let those scorpion mites thrive in them. This year I dumped those 6 predator mites that you can buy. You can get like 4,000 of them for like 15, $20 on Amazon. And I dumped a whole bunch of eggs right near my hives. So that's the only way I'm treating my hives this year, is using Mother Nature and the predator mites. So no oxalic acid vapor, no formic, nothing. So I'll let everybody know on my Tuesdays how's everything going. Um, like I said, I am also going, since I got a lot of boxes on them. It all depends on our fall. if it stays wet like it's been this spring, I won't need to feed them that much. But if we have another drought year, I'll be feeding them extensively. So it all depends on the weather. I really hope we get a fall flow. I've never had a goldenrod flow, and I love goldenrod flow. I love pepper, that Scott, um, shoot, that flavor. Get it before the ester comes in because I do not like the ester flavor. I don't like stinky feet. Taste of ester honey. But goldenrod honey is so good. Butterscotch. Goldenrod honey tastes like butterscotch. My last 8 years, I've had 2 days of butterscotch flow, goldenrod flow. And I got 2 frames of it, and that was it. And it's like, oh, you're walking your bee up in your bee yard, and it smells like butterscotch. Someday, some year, we're going to have a whole week, 2 weeks of that butterscotch flow before the ester comes in. Because it usually blooms the first week or so, the goldenrod blooms, there's no ester, or very few. And then by the end of the goldenrod flow, there's a lot of esters coming around, blooming. So put them up for that week and then take the boxes back off. Get that butterscotch flow, honey. Then I'll bring that down to Nabby. You have some of that butterscotch flavor, honey. I got one bottle a couple years, 3 years ago. That was it. One box with just couple frames. Uh, Yes. What time is it? 9. I'm not going. I'm only going to about 9:45 today. My wife, her school's not out yet. She's got one more day tomorrow. Well, then she got a half day Thursday, and then she's out. And she likes to go to bed 10 o'clock, and I try not to, any later than that. Let her sleep, and don't bother her too much. After this Tuesday, going later after 10 o'clock won't be a problem because she won't be working. She'll be on her summer break. She's going to teach one more year before she retires. At least that's what it looks like. Hey, honeybee compound. Glad you can make it. So I think around 10 till 10, I'm going to be calling it a night. Uh, Nobody came to visit me today. Jump on, but that's all right. So yeah, Brian, that's what I do. I like to graft. I really like summer queens after the flow because the biggest benefit is I don't have to worry about my bees swarming the next year. Plus, that first flow, that overwintered brand new queen, they really crank. They crank, and you can talk to Charlie about first year queens, how much he likes them now. Oils with the oils, yeah, I don't know what about. I'm missing that one. So somebody said good night. Who was that? Nancy? I'm not a big agreed to a lot of science, especially when they do their testing. It is so specific to what their objective is. 9 out of 10 times, it is not practical to whatever their objective is to the world. And they put their results out in a microscope environment that all it does is cause problems with people in manufacturing, people in farming, et cetera, et cetera. Some of it's good. Now, all right, let me see. Yeah, she's the only one now, and I'm not. And I was a big one too, being an electrical engineer and manager at times in my life, even for union people. So I've done it. I've done a lot, contracts and union contracts and all that good stuff. Never wish that on anybody on either side. It's not fun. But yeah, I bring in a little bit of bread now with my honey sales and candle sales and a little bit of queen sales, and maybe I'll probably expand on that, lip balm, and I might even make soaps and stuff like that this winter. Start doing that. At Nabby, I'm going to look a lot more into the peripherals of stuff to make with the bee stuff, since I'll have the time to do that finally. And I'm probably even going to start doing some markets next year, to sell some of that stuff. Since all my days are Saturday, a Saturday morning won't be no big deal. So thank you, Nancy, about scientists. Yeah, I mean, it's good to read what they say and take some of the points, but don't take it for, don't take it like religion. I mean, a grain of salt. Nothing takes, uh, is better than experience. I don't care what people say, even book people. I mean, I was a book person, school person, but experience, and some people have common sense, some people don't. And I'd rather talk to people that have common sense and been doing it for a while, you know, versus scientists and all that. I mean, look at the first couple of years mites came. They thought mites were sucking blood or something out of the bees. It's like, come on. They weren't even close. And then they document it and all that, and everybody reads it, makes that gospel. Just like Langstroth, his bottom boards were made wrong. His going with frames, I think, was a good idea. Um, I would prefer a little bit longer frame, a deep and a half. Maybe a Texas deep frame would be a better size. So there'd be a little bit more honey on every brood frame versus all brood. Um, but that's a different story. But I do like going with what they call the warm way over in Europe with my bottom boards. Um, that seems to be working out really well. And having just a 2 inch by 3/8 inch opening that goes in inch and 3/4 and then splits out in two side openings is working out really, really well with the new design. Yeah, to be brats. I've, being an electrical engineer, going to school, being a process manager at one time, number three in the company, and then doing union talks, three different unions too at different times. Maintenance people, mechanical technicians, and electricians that I managed. Um, yeah, that's a whole nother story. And I traveled being an electrical engineer, doing automation, robotics controls, and running whole, doing lights out plants where everything's done with robotics and automation and programming, all that stuff. I've traveled all over the United States and half the world in my life. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, basically. Phrase off the TV. And I've talked to a lot of scientists. I've talked to a lot of special people, um, hospital presidents, and you name it, big CEOs, you name it. In my past lives, before I became a beekeeper and retired, I'm so glad to not do any of that stuff anymore. Grafting Gamble is one of my big customers. Eli Lilly, which I don't like, is one of my big customers, pharmaceuticals. Yeah, I do have solar panels at my house, Dennis. I run 16 200-watt panels, and I have 12 200 amp hour batteries. And I do not feed any of it back to our utilities. I actually run my barn and half my house with solar. I installed, since I can do all this myself, I installed my own service panels in my barn, electrical service panels in my house. I ran number four, 90 amp in ground cable between the barn and my house. I actually ran it in conduit because I don't ever want to have to deal with it. Yeah, DC, you couldn't. Solar would not work for you. Solar's not even the best in my area, but I averaged my electric bill last 2 years is like $90 a month. Where I live, I'm Duke Energy, and it's $45 if I don't use any. They charge you $45 just to be hooked up to their system. So I try. My goal is $50 a month, but I run around $90 a month. Mostly air conditioning in the summertime, and then I got a 220 heater in my barn, electric heater, and when I run that, that's all on Duke. So yeah, I mean I'm I can't say I'm pro solar panel. I am, but I'm not at the same time. Now, you want to talk about solar panels? There is a new the original solar panels were only 12 and 13% efficient. That was a piece. Those are junk. Then they came out with better solar panels, better silicon, and those are 21 to 23%. And that's what I have right now. But they have now solar panels that are 60, 63 to 70, 63%. They hit the market like 2 years ago, but they're very expensive. I think probably in about 5 more years. When they solar panels get up to 60, 70% efficient, then they're going to put a dent. Then they can be worthwhile to have, make save money, and be good for society. Right now, the cost to make this panels. A lot of people don't know that solar panels is a hazardous waste, so you just can't throw them in the garbage. You have to throw them in a special, um, like well, most people in their solar panels don't throw them away. They just throw them in their backyard because it's very expensive to get to throw your solar panels away. Hopefully, these newer 60% efficient panels are also environment friendly panels that you can throw away. So, yeah, so I'm not quite 100% yet sold on solar panels, and wind power is not there either. Maybe in some places where it's windy all the time, maybe where you are, DC, wind would be good coming off the coast. If you get enough of that coast breeze that's continuously, you're 40, I know when I was up in the Columbia coast in that area, it was breezy about every day, a lot, right there off the coast there. Those would be good spots. I mean, if they really were serious about windmills and that, they would have them on every pole on the streets and every pole on the interstate, on the expressway, because there's always, especially with wind, there's always a um, breeze there made by the vehicles. But I brought that up already in my past life, a long time ago, at least 20 years ago, and they said, "No, thank you. That would be good, but we don't want. They don't want you to make. They don't want all that. easy power energy. First part. Yeah, Brian, I know you got a whole bunch of your solar panels. Yeah, they would support local beekeepers. So, yeah, and they take up a lot of space too, a lot of land. And the net power from solar panels is not that great. They don't talk about it. It's not the panels. It's the batteries. And lithium batteries do not cut it either. The only lithium batteries are lighter. That's about the only thing they're good. They're better than lead acid batteries. They're lighter, but they're a lot more explosive than lead acid batteries. Especially the bigger the battery you get. That's a volatile material. So no, I'm not a big fan of lithium batteries, to tell you the truth. So if they come up with better, actually there are better batteries, and once again, they don't. Nobody makes them. There's a hemp battery that's 8 times strong, 8 times better than a lithium battery made from hemp. But, you can't. That's a dirty word, hemp. Not as bad today, but 20 years ago it was. Good night, Nancy. So a little bit off subject there. Solar panels and windmills and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's nice that I run my barn, um, and I run my furnace blower. I have a blower on my hot water heater. I run my refrigerator, and I have a chest refrigerator and a chest freezer downstairs, and they all run off my solar. So, like I said, a good chunk of my house runs off the solar, and I actually have Duke, where utilities is my backup. So my batteries, I got a 48-volt system. If my batteries get down to 23.4 volts, I think that's what I got it set on. Duke Energy will then switch on, power all those devices, and power. Well, basically, it charges my batteries up. So I'm still powering those devices off from my solar panel batteries, but they're charging my batteries now. And that happens when I get too many cloudy days. Like I just checked my batteries today; they're at 48 volts. And I had 25% of my battery left this evening. So there's not much running tonight. I mean, my wife's on her computer. I got my computer running, but the air conditioner's not running. So it only got up to 65 degrees today. Of course, the furnace is turned off. So now, since it's the two of us, we don't open up those freezers and refrigerators like we used to. Probably won't have to open them up again tonight. So he'll probably make it through the night. But if it's cloudy tomorrow, my Duke would come on. I can handle about 3 days, maybe 4 days with my batteries. But the batteries is the key, not the panels. It's the batteries. And they're the most expensive too. The batteries. Batteries, batteries, batteries. Once again, it's batteries. Same for cars, for everything else. So, and there's better batteries out there that can be made a lot better. I know. I've seen them. I did pretty big project for Duracell some years ago. I've seen their R&D plant and what batteries they made from other products, and why they don't market them. Well, I know why they don't market them, because they get paid not to market them by big government and from other people. But that's a whole nother subject. Yeah, you wouldn't believe how much that goes on. I had that. Yeah, yeah. I've done some top secret programming for some companies. I used to program a lot for some for the defensive energy, um, uranium plants. I've programmed some of those centrifuges to make uranium, pure uranium. One of my projects. I did one for overseas. I programmed a mini power station that would that could be picked up by a helicopter and dropped off by parachute. So that would run all the Wi-Fi, all the Bluetooth, had 32 mainframe server computers in it, and I don't know how many 120 plug circuits were in it. 20, 24, something like that. Then they would drop that off and drop off a um, generator to run it. Ran all that. That was another little top secret project. I think they were used a lot in Desert Storm um, to run all the equipment that's out in the field. If you tip in reverse any alien technology, no, I haven't. Not that I know of. I programmed some weird stuff. Did I think I mentioned this one. I did Elon Musk Starlink, all his satellites. I programmed with a team of us programmed all that. That was a neat project, and I did one for NASA for the rocket system, the tower, programming that tower, and all its controls it does in there for the rockets to take off. Did program that too at one time. So I have done some pretty neat stuff. Got to see some neat stuff too. But no, some of that could have been alien technology that I didn't know was alien technology, but that'd be funny if it was. Yeah. But I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I'm done. In fact, I found out, I think about, I got about upper 50s. I could not think correctly to write a program. It's hard to explain, but when I would write my programs or a company would hire me to write a program, it would take me probably anywhere from a week to 3 months for me to write the program in my head, to think about how I was going to write the program from line 1 to line 3,000, 10,000. And the hardest part of writing a program like that is going through all those 10,000 steps in your head, knowing that the first 500 lines of code that you write will affect the 9,950 line code that you write 3 months, a year later, or 8 months later to a year later. Some of them took me over a year to write. So many lines of code. So I had to mentally step in my head how I was going to write this program and how the program would link to itself thousands of lines down the road, written hundreds of days later. And that takes some really alien thinking, Brian, to do that. And as I got older, I could not do that as well as I could when I was younger. And now I wouldn't even think about doing any of that kind of stuff. It'd be too dangerous. Get somebody hurt. Some bad programming. Yeah, that's another subject. I gotta figure out how I can put a controls program a beehive. I mean, I could put sensors in it, but they would purplize everything. Probably destroy the sensor. Maybe have to do wireless sensors. Um, I think there's some Earth magnetic sensors that read the Earth magnetic voltages and currents. I would love to get a couple of those sensors. I mean, you can't buy them off the internet, but I do know the company. They actually live the company's in Colorado, up in the mountains, up in a um, I wouldn't call it a secret place, but pretty remote place. They make these really awesome sensors um, that measures the magnetic first voltage of the people don't know about the ether that surround that on our Earth, and it's usually right around 2 volts, 2.3 volts. These sensors will pick up. Those would be neat to put in the hives just to see if when they go into swarm mode, if that voltage changes. In fact, I might do that next year. You might give me an idea, Brian. I'm going to see if I can get a couple of those earth magnetic sensors. I did those for the big three automobile industry for the transmissions. There's well, between the Ford, Chevy, Ford, and Chrysler at the time, their um, transmissions had 12, 15 springs, little cylinders with springs in them. And good night, Russell. I did a program where I was measuring the the spring was there. That was the whole goal, was to verify that spring was in place. But with these magnetic sensors, I was actually to verify the length of the spring and if it was a steel spring or a stainless steel spring. The Corvettes got all stainless steel springs, where the non-Corvettes, the Chevy, got steel springs. One of the difference between the two transmissions, plus besides this other things on the transmission. But that's where I got to learn about that technology. And I don't know where that technology came from. Don't know. Good night, everybody. And yeah, so let's get back to beekeeping now. Enough of this weird stuff I used to do. Um, so I do bucket feeds. You can see in my background, I have a couple buckets on there. I think that was me coming out of winter or last fall. That's an old picture. I don't know why I got an old picture in the background. I gotta update that next week. I got some new pictures. So I'll make sure I'll do that. I have to write a little note on that. Update background. I have to write everything down now. Done. All right. Got my to-do list. It's on my phone right now. The pictures, so I have to get them over to the computer. Just bought my wife a new laptop tonight. Bought her a pretty nice one. i9 processor in it. 32 RAM number RAM 5, not RAM 6, but the next fastest. 1 terabyte solid state drive, so a pretty nice piece laptop, touchscreen laptop too. She doesn't know that. So I bought it on Amazon. They got good prices, as good as anybody else, and get free delivery. So Black Hawk helicopter. Those are wicked machines. I never programmed one of those. That would be a neat program. The firing system, all the weapons on a helicopter. I, I didn't do anything with planes. I did with rockets. I did with satellites, but not planes. At least not that I know of. Sometimes P&G once hired me for 3 months just to think if I could write a program. That was pretty cool. And I did. Actually, I had a big meeting at the Twin Towers, which happens to be in Cincinnati, where their headquarters is. And I talked to all their engineers and their scientists and all that, and said, "Yeah, we can do this project. Here's how I'm going to write it." And I got about a third of the way into writing the program, and I found a major bug in my program. And so I had another meeting with P&G and says, "I can't. This program won't work. Here's the reason why." I went through the whole ordeal, and all their programmers and all their scientists agreed that this was a major stepping stone. And after 3 months, they canceled the project. Well, a month later, it was approximately a month later, fourth month, I was actually flying from a P&G plant back home, and I came up with the answer, a solution to my problem, how to fix the code so it would work. I wrote it down on napkins that I got, when they used to give you little snacks on the plane. I wrote little on my napkins because I didn't have any paper and pen, any paper with me. I got back into the office, I got back home, and my notes made no sense to me. It's like I was in a some kind of programming dream world. And after 2 weeks, I figured out what I wrote down in my notes. Those little napkins, and had another meeting with P&G, and it worked really well. Wrote the program, and 2 years later, they started running the program and did a little tweaking on it, just a little adjustments with the data set that I was getting back from the information, and worked like a charm. And now Amazon uses it, DHL uses it, all the manufacturing plants use that technology, that program. So that's probably my most to everybody uses today. That program I wrote for Procter and Gamble 30 years ago started the online mass produced, mass shipment, quick shipment of products. That's what I wrote on how to distinguish every product, how to run 4,000 pieces of material a minute and go to get across the world all correctly. It took some logistics to do that. All right, let's get back into beekeeping. That was probably the neatest program I wrote, how I did that. But yeah, now I just do beekeeping. That's a lot simpler, but it's different in a different way. Not so technical. I'm going to make it more technical, though. Like I said, I'm going to try to get some of those magnetic earth sensors. I'll put those in the hive. They don't have wires on them. They actually get powered from the ground voltages, the voltages floating across the ground that we don't even know exist, but I do. Yeah, I'm not doing any of that DC. I'll gather information on the bees to share with everybody. So I'm gonna get a couple of those. I can always get my own temperature and weight sensors and humidity sensors and all that. Those are that those are cheap and inexpensive. Yeah, maybe I'll put up a little system and I get through half of my hives. Compass. I don't need a compass. All my hives face to the. That's another thing I do. All my hives face to the north, the northwest, to north, the northeast. A couple of them almost east to northeast. Um, I know that's another thing for me, just catching swarm traps and all that, and talking to Mr. Ed and Randy, the dirt rooster, when they do their cutouts, where they're at on their house, and they both did little tests for me, gave me back information that I was correct on my assumption, on my objective as being a scientist, that the bees prefer the north side of a house when they do their cutouts. And Randy said about 100% were out on the north. He had a couple of exceptions where they're on the east and northeast, but both of them had big trees shading that part of the house. So that's where I learned that they have to be in the shade too. North side, out of the sun, and in the shade. What is a magnetic Earth device? Yeah, it's a self-contained sensor that reads micro small voltage deviations. Yeah, that's the best way to explain it. So anything that's got now any materials that can hold any type of voltage, magnetic type materials, this sensor will read what voltages are going through it at the very small level of voltages, like 2 voltages. 2 volts is all point voltages, things like that. I wouldn't call it nano voltages or quantum voltages, but one level up from it. There's my orbits. Yeah, well, that would have low voltages in it, so I would be able to read that. But yeah, fun stuff. And I'm not smart either. I was math smart. I'm very very good in math. Or was. If you give me on any other stuff, um, just average Joe. That's part about it. You would never know if I didn't tell you. But I think I was just a beekeeper. Just a beekeeper. That's all I am. Well, yeah, one that makes little changes every year on my bees. Now I run, like you see in my picture, um, hives on the side. I use a little block to block even the 2 inch. Sometimes I only run half of it, 1 inch. And that's my little gig. All my hives turn sideways. It really makes it nice getting frames out too, because now I don't have to reach over the hive anymore to get to the other side of the frame. All my frames are on the side. So I can work behind my hives and work on each side and pull that frame right up. I'm to the point now I don't even use smoke hardly anymore because the bees don't mind it so much that I'm not reaching over the hive. I'm just reaching the sides of the hive. If I do smoke, I just smoke the 2 sides to get the bees off the ends. It's not Watson, it's Wehner. Wehner. Dana. So I just heard my wife get up from her chair, and I'm not even talking about beekeeping hardly anymore. So I think I'm going. Hey, Todd, what did you have for dinner? You probably had dinner already, or you're eating dinner right now. Did you grill? Change the subject a little bit. I had it. We went out and had pizza after the the visitation and the mass burial mass. Then we had lunch, and I ate a lot there. So all I had for dinner tonight was a chocolate malt, some ice cream. That was my dinner. Didn't have to cook. Pork? No, I don't even know what that is. It sounds good. Release some queens. Virgin queens or mated queens? I love watching virgin queens walk brand new merged out of the cell virgin queens. I think that's my favorite part of beekeeping because the bees get so excited. It's funny watching them. And then they start fanning. Yeah, virgins. I let them just walk right in the top of the frames or even at the entrance sometimes. And the bees would just they go nuts. It's funny. You get a whole different reaction than you do with mated queens when they're queenlessly, helplessly beehive. So hell, it's almost 10 till. I only got 33 people watching. Now I don't know what I got up to the max. I wasn't paying attention. Uh, Yeah, I did a little short video on one walking in on my horizontal hive, Ricky's horizontal hive. That was a little two frame, three two frame, three frame split, and I just walked her in. She was a shy one though. It's amazing on the different queens' personalities. Some take 5, 10 minutes to go in. Some could go as soon as I open up the end here. They just walk right out and right down into the hive. Other ones don't. I don't think it makes any difference. Just the personality of the queens. Maybe the smell of the hive's different. I have no idea. That's another thing I should study. But all right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. Everybody, have a great evening, and I'll see everybody next Tuesday. And God bless, and I love everybody nowadays. Someday I need to tell you my story about 7/11/03 when I died. But I should do that in a religious one. Because if you're not religious, you won't care. But I am now. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Well, good night, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.